Well, hello, and welcome to the last talk in the inaugural TEDxSHSU. I'm glad you're here. Now, my talk is entitled Service from the Ground Up. But given the number of mistakes that I've made over the past few years, the number of do-overs that I've had to do, it could just as easily have a subtitle paraphrasing Elizabeth Barrett Browning's famous poem. How do I fail thee? Let me count the ways. Fortunately for you, that's it for humor, because my friends tell me that I'm not very good at humor, and I'm hoping by the end of this talk that you will be my friends and that you will join that chorus. My name is Peter, and I'm here to tell you the story of my journey towards a simple truth. And that truth is this: that you cannot help a community without being part of the community and without building a community of volunteers around you that share the same aspirations and goals that you do. Now, let me begin with a fable. Finn McCool is the greatest ever Irish warrior, a giant of a man. In mythology, he's famous for tricking the Scottish giants into believing that the Irish giants were bigger and stronger, and so avoiding an invasion from Scotland. Now, in my imagination, he is just the greatest warrior Ireland has ever seen. His exploits are legendary, and his feats are just amazing. Red of tooth and claw, he defeated all of his enemies and beat all of his rivals. All except one, Father Time. As the circle of life began to close for him, he realized that the next generation, the younger warriors, soon were going to become better and stronger and faster than him, and he would no longer be able to beat them, and he would be coming to the end of the road. He pondered this for a long time, and then he decided that the end of one road is merely the beginning of another. And so he put up his sword and his shield, and he started foraging for food and encouraging others to do so, and preparing meals to give to the younger warriors to take that time and effort burden off of them so that they could train harder and become the greatest warriors of the next generation. So it is with me, except I'm no Finn McCool. After a 46-year career in academia, I traded my office for a field and my computer for a shovel. I founded Sustain Huntsville, whose purpose is to provide, to address food insecurity by building a community garden that provided free produce to people in Huntsville and Walker County. I like gardening, so what better way to give back to the community? As you might guess, this came with a whole set of problems that I didn't know how to deal with. Where am I going to find land? What kind of soil? Where am I going to get soil? What kind of crops can I grow that people will eat? How do I deal with pests? And so many more other things. And I came to the realization that I don't know enough. I can't do enough. There are so many things I'm not good at. I don't have the resources. So what am I going to do? And the answer is, I'm going to ask for help. And so we did. We asked the city of Huntsville, and they gave us 3/4 of an acre of land in Cape Bar Ross Park. We asked Rotary, and they gave us resources to bring in soil and to do fences and much, much more. Those were the easy asks. Now, I don't know if this is a universal truth, but it's true for me, and I suspect it's true for many of you. Asking help from family and loved ones is easy. That's what they're there for. Asking for help from a large organization is easy. Asking for help from people you don't know or you don't know very well is difficult. Rejection is difficult. When somebody agrees to help and then doesn't follow through, that's hard to take. But you can't help a community without asking for help and becoming part of that community and developing that community of volunteers around you. Let me put it differently. There is a difference between living in a community and being part of the community. Let me illustrate this with some of my community of volunteers that I have. So the first slide is going to be Thelma. Thelma and Bernice are a retired mother and daughter, and they love to shop, which is not something I'm particularly interested in doing unless it's really good food. But they love to shop, and they're great at finding bargains. So they scour all the shops in Huntsville and Willis and sometimes Conroe, and they gather up all the bargains. And that's why you can't find any bargains at the stores. And then once a week, I go over and I spend a couple of hours with them, and we have coffee and we chat and just develop our relationship. And then I collect all of that stuff for distribution. This next slide is Erin. Erin lives in Houston. She manages the social media presence for Sustain Huntsville. By the way, Sustain Huntsville, S-H, right? Okay. Now, my background is computer science, so I should have the technical skills to do that. But I don't know what works to attract people in, to make them want to be part of the organization. She does. So we have a conversation, and I tell her what's going on in the garden, and I send a few photos, and before you know it, there's another post on Instagram or on the organization's webpage. Now, I don't have a picture of Eloy, but Eloy is an accountant in San Antonio, and you can't drive from San Antonio to Huntsville to garden every day. That's just not practical. But he has skills that I need. He files all the paperwork for Sustain Huntsville to make sure that it complies with federal and state regulations. Next slide is Rory. Rory's 6. But with a stick and a willingness to work, he can handle very delicate seedlings and transplant them and increase our production. Now, there is a whole cloud of volunteers that surround these individual examples. We have the advisors, the ones that tell me, wouldn't it be better if you did this? Or have you thought about that? And give me genuinely good ideas for how we can develop the project and make it better and larger. We have the cheerleaders, and I don't know where there's my cheerleader, there's my main cheerleader over there, Stephanie. The cheerleaders, the ones that bring people in that say, you need to hear about Sustain Huntsville, you need to go do something about Sustain Huntsville. And my next group is my worker bees. And my worker bees swarm onto the garden 3 times a year. And they get their hands and clothes and shoes dirty by digging, raking, shoveling, weeding, planting, watering, harvesting. And they do a fantastic amount of work in a very short space of time. And then there's the donors, the people that give us resources. And sometimes those resources are money, and sometimes those resources are other kinds of resources, lumber or fencing or whatever. Sometimes it's, well, we will charge you for this. And so all of these. Without these people, we wouldn't be able to do anything. Without these people, nothing would happen. And the community would continue to suffer. Finally, there's Brenda. Brenda is the director of the Walker County Head Start organization. That's me and Brenda together. A couple of times a week, I collect everything that's been given to us, and I deliver it to Head Start. And Brenda lays that out on folding tables, and when the parents come to pick their preschoolers up, at the end of the day, they get to take what they need. No charge, no questions. And I've asked Brenda, do you think your people would like this? And the answer is always yes. And it's always gone at the end of the day. And it's things like slow cookers, toasters, toiletries, household goods, china and cutlery, as well as food. So, you've probably heard people say, giving is better than receiving. But I say, giving is receiving. When you make a difference, when you make that transition from living in the community to being part of the community, when you make that a habit, when it becomes part of your character, you are a better person and you are making the community a better and kinder community. I'm going to finish by saying this. If anything I have said, or in fact anything any of the other speakers have said, sparks an idea in your mind, or makes you more likely to become part of the community and get involved in a volunteer project, then this time has been worthwhile. I'll close now, and again,